It's now the beginning of February. It's been over a month since Christmas happened, even though it feels like just yesterday or just last week we had Christmas. And now at this point of the year, all the newness of the things we got, the toys or the clothing, the newness of those Christmas presents start waning. They start wearing off and they just become like everything else we had in the closet, or all the other toys that we might have had. Unless if you gave a gift, got a Christmas present that you can't use yet. And that was what me and my brothers actually gave my mom this past year at Christmas. We gave her a chainsaw. And at least here in Northwest Indiana, we have a foot of snow on the ground. So she has not used her chainsaw yet. It's a real chainsaw. It's an 18-inch bar. She got some property recently. She's going to start taking down some of the trees on the property. So went together and got her this chainsaw. And that newness is still there. But I was thinking about it because when I was in seminary 15 years ago, we all had these different house jobs that we would take charge of. So some guys would be in charge of the chapel or the sacristy, in charge of the kitchen, in charge of the library, and I was in charge of the grounds that the seminary was on, taking care of the grounds. So we sat on like 20 acres or so, right, in Indianapolis. And on Saturday mornings, we'd have these work sessions where the guys, we would all get together and we would have all these different projects just to keep things going in the house to make sure things took place. Well, the fall of that year, I was looking around, me and a couple of guys, and there was a number of trees that we needed to take out. They were dead. And so one of the Saturday mornings, I went and rented a couple of chainsaws. And I asked some of the guys who were from farms, some farm boys from Southern Indiana, Southern Illinois, if they could help take down these trees on this Saturday morning work session. And they were all about it. So that Saturday morning, we went out and we counted. There was like 10 trees that we needed to take out. I gave them a couple guys that would help pull the trees out once they cut them down and get rid of them. And they started, and I had some other things I needed to do. So then I left. A couple hours later, it was about 3 hours. I come back thinking it would all be done. And I'm looking around and they only took like 2, 3 of the trees out. And immediately I started jumping down their throats. What were you guys doing? Were you taking coffee breaks? Were you taking smoke breaks? Like, were you just being lazy? Like, why did you not get this project done? And it reminds me of how quick we are to dish out criticism and to take praise. How quick as people we are to blame others, to dish out blame, and to take praise for ourselves. And it's right to this that St. Paul is talking to us in the first letter to the Corinthians on this weekend. So it's right at the beginning of the first chapter, and he writes to the Corinthians saying, "Consider your own calling, brothers and sisters. Many of you, by human standards, we're not wise, we're not powerful, we're not of noble birth. Rather, God took you to shame the proud, to shame those who are of noble birth, to shame those who are powerful in this world." But he ends it, at the end he says, "Whoever boasts, though, shall boast only in the Lord." So if you are to boast, you're to boast only in the Lord, not in the power that you might have or the wisdom or the cleverness, but boast only in the Lord. And I think we need to be reminded of that because oftentimes we boast in ourselves. We take the credit and we dish out the blame. We take the credit for all the things that went well and we quickly point the fingers to our siblings, to our coworkers, to our friends, to our spouse, to God when things don't go well. And so I want to look at this in 3 ways for us to help reformulate how we approach the world. The first is the metaphysical. So it's a big word, metaphysical, but all that means is the study of things beyond the physical, the immaterial, the spiritual, the things beyond the physical. And what we're reminded of in the metaphysical way is that you and I did not create ourselves, that we were not self-sufficient, that we didn't create ourselves by ourselves, but rather God used our parents to create us. But then even the gifts and the talents that we have were not because of ourselves, not because of you or anything that I did. Oftentimes it was the gifts that God has given us when he created us and then nurtured by our parents or by coaches, by teachers, by people in our lives. It's a reminder, St. Paul says, many of you are not powerful. We're not wise by human standards, but we're given those gifts by God oftentimes through other people. So it's this reminder that it's not that you are not God, right? That we did not create ourselves or give ourselves all these gifts, but rather God gave it to us. So that's the metaphysical. The second is the human level. So the relationship between myself and other people, our brothers and sisters around us. And I want to look at it in a leadership way. So If you read any leadership book or listen to any leadership podcast or go to conferences on leadership, they will always tell you in, whatever phrasing that they come up with is that you give praise publicly to your team, to other people that you work with, your coworkers or people that you lead. You give praise publicly and you take on failure. You give praise publicly and you take on failure. So what that means is that you find ways in which you can identify other people and raise them up and compliment them publicly so other people can see it. So you identify a gift or something that happened well with a coworker or with your spouse, and you publicly praise that person to raise them up. But then when things maybe don't go well, when there's a failure, you take on that criticism, you take on that failure. But oftentimes we are so quick to point out, well, if it wasn't for her, this would happen, or if it wasn't for him, that's why this failed. And we point the fingers and we blame others. And then when we're complimented, we take that praise when we should dish it out. So the first is that metaphysical, to recognize this reality that you did not create yourself. The second is the relationship, the leadership between other people, how you can shift that mindset, how you can live it out. But really looking at the metaphysical, we're reminded at the end with St. Paul to give God the praise. To give God the praise. If you're going to boast in anyone, boast in the Lord. The third is the spiritual, which is our relationship with God. And oftentimes we are so quick to blame God for problems. We can blame God for problems. Why did this happen to me? We can kind of get a little whiny. Why did this take place? Why is life so difficult for me right now? Look at other people. They don't have it as hard as me. Or it can be very real. Like, Lord, why did you take my spouse? This person I was supposed to live the rest of my life with, I was supposed to grow old with, why did she die? Why is my spouse, why does he have cancer and suffering? Why did I lose my job? All I did was try my best. And this restructuring of the company or whatever it is, and why, God? Or why is my utility bill, my NIPSCO bill, twice as much this month? I'm on a fixed income. How am I supposed to pay this and also get groceries? And we complain to God. And I'm not saying don't be authentic in your prayer. Like, I'm not telling you not to go to God with your problems. Like, God wants to hear our problems. That's why we have prayers of petition, asking God to help us. But then don't forget to also give him thanks. Because oftentimes, when life is going well, when things are going great, we don't even think to thank God. Rather, we thank ourselves. Man, I'm so smart. I'm so great. Look at all the good things that took place. I'm so powerful. I'm so clever. I'm so smart. And that's why this is going well. And St. Paul speaks right into that reality to the Corinthians in the first letter of the Corinthians, and to you and I, that is not the case. Rather, to boast only in the Lord. I was reminded of this reality so clearly those 15 years ago. So as soon as I was done criticizing my brother seminarians, which looking back, I was so immature, I cringed thinking about how I spoke to them. They quickly reminded me, and there was a heated exchange, that, well, if you would have gotten the mixed gas, the stuff we needed to mix the gas, and so we had to go get it so to make the 2-cycle gas, and if it wasn't for you to send us more men to help us figure this out, and also look at the trees that you wanted us to cut down, they're all near each other. We couldn't just cut them all down at once, and for safety things, it was because of you. And it's that reminder that we should not criticize, to dish out criticism and take praise, but really the other way around, to dish out that praise, to raise up other people, to give honor, to boast only in the Lord, and to take on that criticism that Jesus shows us on the cross. His arms outstretched between heaven and earth, not for his own sins, but for the sins of you and me and of every person. He's the greatest example of that. It was through that crucifixion, it was through him willingly giving himself up as the innocent lamb that he conquered sin and death, that he opened up the gates of hell, that he conquered those moments, that he overcame the evil one. So as St. Paul says, sisters and brothers, boast only in the Lord.